if you have truly narcissistic parents, um, this is for you. And I also want to preface this with um, I am aware that there are lots of personality disordered adult children who believe that their parents are the disordered ones. So, um, I am talking in the context of true narcissism, um, being raised by somebody like that, whether it's psychopathy, narcissism. You are very likely bound to this person in shame, and they keep you wound up very tight with guilt. And that has been a strategic, energetic dynamic that has been set up and created on their behalf using you. And that guilt and shame, that binding to, and that winding almost on your internal world with the face of this person as um, an interior object. Like we obviously have um, a similar relationship with our internal world that we've experienced in the outer world, right? Like if you come from a narcissistic family system, you are going to have parts that are codependent, narcissistic, empathetic, like apathetic. You're very likely going to experience a multitude of internal conflict that is polarized just based on dealing with the Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, even people would be nice to me, and I'd be like, I don't, just because you're being nice, I don't trust you, right? Like, I don't, because normally it would be followed by some sense of if something is good is being happening and somebody's being nice to me, there's going to be a cost. Like, where's the hit coming, right? So that's a very polarized way to be when you also believe most people in the world are good. And then when they present you with good, you're like, I don't know what you're doing here. But, and that comes from being raised in a narcissistic family system. It can be from a lot of things too. But what I want to say today is um, one of my close friends said to me, that cutting her mom off was the best thing that she's ever done for herself. I can't get behind that because my work is in epigenetics, generational trauma. I really don't think that humanity is go or lay down is necessarily going to get very far with the individualistic culture that we live in. I believe that we need systemic support, which, if you live in a narcissistic family system, you do not get. The support that you do get is actually hindering, not helping. So, I have never believed in the cutoff method, but a year and a half ago, I had absolutely no choice but to go against my own identity and every single thing that is true to my insides and cut off my family. Um, and this is after years and years and the rope being so long and so extended that I really absolutely had no choice, which was the hardest thing to recognize, that I was helpless in the situation. And then I was helpless to not even be in the situation. Like I literally could not sustain my own sanity in that situation. So I was helpless to even my choice, right? Which brought up so much about the 40 years prior because that's the primary feeling that I felt. So then I'm being like, okay, I'm not going to go into this. But the long journey later, right? I realized these energetic and emotional things going on for me. And one of the things that I got to is that I have this idea, and I think maybe all of us do, that if we leave this narcissistic person, that we are abandoning them. Even though they've abandoned us over and over again, we have an idea that it is somewhat our responsibility to stay with them. And I think that this might be because of the Jekyll and Hyde thing, because we know, especially in narcissism, the image that these people portray to the world is very, very different than what they are at home. And that can feel like a privilege, even as a child who's being abused or who's being kind of like scapegoated or looked at constantly. It's almost like this privilege. And I hate to say it that way, but that's what my experience is now, seeing it retroactively, to see them in their truth. But you're like, it's so confusing because it's not true. Like, look, they were really nice to this person. They presented well here. Like, it's so confusing. But also, there's this tendency to believe I'm the only person who knows the real them. And because I love this person, I I want to see them, even if this person is devilish to me, right? Like I want to continue to see this part of you, this abusive part even, because I know that I'm the only person in the world who gets that part of you. This is our little secret. Oh, I hate thinking of it like this. But it's true. There's this like, oh, there's this, maybe it's enmeshment, whatever it is. It's like, oh, you let me see that part of you. And it feels like a privilege. It doesn't, and even though they're shaming on you, it somehow binds you to them, feeling like a privilege that you get to see them be that way in a way that they don't show the outer world. So and then there's guilt for leaving them, right? You're like all wound up, like without me, nobody's gonna see them. This person's literally gonna die. Like they have nobody in the world that they will show themselves to but me. So without me, what about this whole other part of them? Like, is it just like they won't have any place to put it. They won't have any container for it. So we feel like we're literally abandoning a child. Like they don't have their own container. Oh my God, where are they, who's gonna, catch them when they're having a temper tantrum and slamming their head on the wall? That's me. That's my job. And it was a privilege to see them in that vulnerable, this is how we put it in our minds, that vulnerable space of dysregulation, that vulnerability of that temper tantrum that they just projected and threw at me. It feels honestly like a privilege to know, and this might not be true for everybody, but for me, it was true that like I know all of you. And I'm also a person who doesn't really miss a lot when it comes to those things, but that sense of like, if I am not here, this part of you that you exercise out on me and then try to put in my body and then tell me I need an exorcism, I'm going to leave you with that. And you can't handle it. That's why you've been trying to make me handle it all these years. And without me, you're literally going to die. That's what it feels like. Um, and I actually had a therapist say that to me one time. I was like, no, that's not, I don't think my mom's going to die without me. I would more so probably think I'm going to die without my mom. Who knows? But it actually strangely has gotten to a place after a year and a half that that's what it feels like. And I am just thinking of this and I want to present this to you because I can think of so many relationships in my life that I had that same relationship with, where it's like, oh, you're showing me your depth, you're showing me this, and maybe it's even like the devilish, the darkest parts of you, and because of that, we share some commonality. Because of that, you're letting me in on a secret that I want to keep sacred because you only share it with me. When the truth is, they might be sharing that with a bunch of other people too, but there's this specialness of like, look, you get to see this part of me, nobody else does, even if it's hurting you. And I'm not saying that this is an adult mind thinking this. I'm saying this is a child mind thinking this and growing up into an adult not realizing that that is the shame that binds them, that that is the guilt that winds them. This sense of nobody will see you if I don't. So I can't leave you because you will be a baby left out in the woods to die because nobody else is going to see that part of you, and it's one of the biggest parts of you that you try to hide from everybody. But I'm here, and this is the thing for me, and this is where it gets destructive. I'm here, I love you, I accept you, and you think, oh, as long as I do that, that'll be enough. Then they'll turn into a nice person, they'll love themselves enough to love me, and blah blah blah. No, that's not the way it goes. But we have these ideas. I'm going to stick it out with you. I accept you. This is because of your trauma. Even when they're traumatizing us, we make excuses for their trauma, right? And after a year and a half, I just realized that that is the truth, that I have this idea without me seeing her every day and accepting her in every way. I have abandoned her and I'm the only person in the world who would probably love her. But I also have generalized that belief to many other people, abusive ex-boyfriends, friendships. Like, if I, even though this doesn't feel good for me, if I leave the situation, nobody else is going to know this person like I do. And I want them to feel known and accepted because I genuinely believe that's what helps people change and be better. But I do not have the capacity to see every single person in all of their light all of the time and accept them, and then be bound to them for fear that if I leave them, they're going to die. And I'm staying with them purely based on I don't want to leave them in their shame. And if I did, I would feel guilty about it because I've been the receptacle for that shame. And without me, they have nowhere to put it. So we grow up to have these beliefs like that's my role. I am the receptacle for shame. First, probably like 8 years of my practice, I charged like absolutely nothing and I had the worst clients in the world. I had this belief I'm the receptacle for shame. And now it's like, oh, I help people change that belief, right? Because I am not, even if I have clients who are like, want to spew that at me, I'm not that anymore, right? So it is, I just want to put this out there and see what you think about it. This idea that when you do leave, I mean, that's when the real work starts because especially if you didn't believe in the cutoff method, the real work starts when you leave. Because then you're not in the soup of the environment. Now it's only the internal you have to deal with, and you realize they have infiltrated your internal and they have reprogrammed your internal to be something more like them and something less like you, or something more like they wanted you to be and something less like you actually are. And leaving them is really actually when you start running toward yourself. But for me and my belief in like oneness and my belief that like, oh, I can handle this. I mean, I was a kid who I would say like, God, please put all the pain in the world on me. I'm the strongest person. Like I can handle it. I can handle it. My parents can't, just put it on me. That kind of martyrdom, that kind of belief that I've had that like I can handle it. So just like I deserve the shame. I deserve the suffering because I can tolerate it. These people obviously can. It has gotten me in a lot of trouble in a lot of relationships. And then I stay for fear that I am abandoning the very people who would abandon me in a heartbeat if I didn't do what they wanted me to do. Or, if I really was my own self-agent person and they couldn't put me where they wanted me, they would abandon me in a heartbeat. So when you leave, then it's like, whoa, where's the scaffolding? Where's my guilt and shame binding me to reality right now? I'm just like this loose, airy person, right? Because I'm not bound by these things in the external. But because I've always contained other people and not really myself, I do not have the internal scaffolding of my own non-shame oriented foundational structure to ground me to a reality that actually feels good. I'm still going, oh, I am in this reality that feels great, honestly. But my head, up until probably 2 months ago, has still lived in this retroactive reality where I have abandoned people that I love and that my sole role is to support them. And when really they've, on a true, honest level, have never supported who I actually am. And the whole time I was supporting who they actually are and accepting them even when they were harming me. I would just like you to explore, if you have left or if you are thinking of leaving, a true narcissistic person. And I say that because I've had a lot of conflict with my daughter. And actually, it wasn't conflict. That's the problem. In my family, in my immediate family now, we talk about things. We have repair, we have resolution. In my family of origin, nobody talked about anything. Everything was pushed under the rug. I was the only one who would bring stuff up sometimes, and it would be shut down, and my mother would always be right, and my father never had a word to say. And ultimately, I realize in a lot of family systems, there are healthy people who are, for some reason, indoctrinated and isolated from the other healthy people in their life, from a disordered person who's not even in the immediate family. So I hear stories of, oh, my daughter-in-law totally turned my son against us, or my son. And how you would think, how is that possible if they weren't assholes, right? But I'm here to say I've seen it all. And it's very possible for an asshole to look great and to turn your healthy child against you with the air of, oh, look, I'm helping you, I'm saving you. See, I really care about you. Your family doesn't really care about you because if they did, they would be doing this. And they set up obstacles to make it so that you can't actually do the things that you would do to show this person that you care about them. So there are sometimes adult children who will cut off their family, and that has not been the case in this situation for me, but I've done a lot of research and as a therapist seen it, that there are healthy parents with maybe healthy children or maybe personality disordered children, or maybe they have a friend. Their healthy child has a friend who turns them against you. And you'd think, how does a friend do that if you're like, we are only one influence in the spoke of their influence wheel. Even my 9-year-old has a frenemy situation at school. This girl has a complete ensnarement over her psyche, which is like, dude, she's 9 and she's one friend, and my daughter focuses on her all day long. She is ensnared in this dysfunctional relationship. It is possible to be swayed and alienated by somebody who is actually narcissistic but comes in the face of nice charm and care and actually isolates you from the people who do care about you. So I do want to preface this because I know it's a very fine line. I also know that there are, personality disordered parents who should be cut off, because that's maybe when the healing starts. But I think that the cutoff method is absolutely the last resort. And I guess that's the last thing I will say about that piece. But I would assume that the people who find it hardest to cut their family off that really needs to be cut off is because they've always been the lifeline for their family. And that is too much pressure. And I mean this from a child. Like, you're the identified patient, you're the lifeline, you're the organizing principle of this dysfunction. And we're calling you the dysfunction because we're just organizing around you and working on our own dysfunction on you. Um, and if that's the case, you're very likely going to grow up and feel responsible for the dysfunction. So you're going to want to stay in the dysfunction. You're going to feel guilty if you're no longer in dysfunction, because how dare you get out of the system without getting everybody out with you? And ultimately, you're probably going to feel like the need to be upheld by shame and guilt, and also the um, helplessness of feeling like you are literally obligated to abandon a child in the woods because you can no longer carry. And I mean, in this case for me, it was like, I'm carrying, however many people. I can't carry you, mom. I can't keep doing that. I've done it this whole time, right? I didn't even do a thumbs up. So, um, yeah, I think that the guilt of leaving a narc is honestly because you have this idea that they will have no one but you, because you can see them, and that you do not just see the image that they show the world, you see the real them, and somehow that feels like a sacred privilege, even if the real them is literally eating the real you from the inside out. So, just something to consider. They're probably not going to die if you are no longer the receptacle for their shame and guilt, but it will very much, in an embodied cellular way, very much feel like that's going to be true. And also, there's an element of cognitive arrogance for those of us who think that, like, because we were the organizing principle, if we're not there, they'll just find a new one, right? But we have this idea like, no, it was me. This is my sanctified role in this family, and I'm supposed to be this, like, you know, thing. And if I'm not this thing, then what are they? Well, who knows? They'll figure it out. But you got to figure out what your thing is, what the inner thing is. And maybe then you go back to the thing, knowing what the inner thing is. But I think until then, there's definitely an idea that if we abandon the people who would happily abandon us, we're just like them. So we would never want to do that to them because we assume, oh, that's why they're like this in the first place. Their trauma is what's making them do this. And we're not allowed the breathing room to actually assess our own self-agent being as a traumatized being in the present. We always look at their present and go, oh, this is because of the past. You're traumatized, and that's why you're bringing this to me. But look, let me help you. And it has to come to a point sometimes. And I would have loved it to come to a point where I could do that without the cutoff, where it didn't have to get so extreme. I think I did. I preached on here for years. Psychological distance is enough, especially if you're not dealing with a true narcissistic personality disorder, but just like a narcissistic person. Psychological distance should be enough. Managing expectations should be enough. But in my case, I again felt helpless to the choice that I had absolutely no choice but to go against everything I ever believed and my own identity and everything I would ever want for myself and my family, to go no contact. And in the process, I have somehow, though I have worried that I'm abandoning other people that I love, found the very person I should have been trying to save all along. And she wasn't out there. And I didn't have to save her even. All I had to do was like find her and let her be. That's it. So there's that. Happy whatever day it is for you today. All right, bye.